Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another video. It is the game preview, Burnley versus Everton tomorrow evening, 5:30 kickoff at Turf Moor. Burnley currently sat 19th in the Premier League table, 16 games played, 2 wins, 2 draws and 12 defeats on 8 points. Everton just above the relegation zone in 17th with 13 points, but obviously more games won than the teams in and around us. 16 games played, 7 won, 2 drawn, and 7 defeats. Everton should really be sat in 10th position, but obviously we know the situation. We're not going to go over it again because we've spoken about it numerous times over the course of the last few weeks or so. We are where we are. Whether or not we get those points back is another conversation. And for now, we've simply just got to focus on football matches and focus on winning football matches. And this is another absolutely huge football match for Sean Dyche and for those players coming off the back of 3 wins on the bounce. 2 of them, of course, being fantastic home wins against Newcastle and Chelsea. A brilliant week for Everton Football Club last week. But this game is one that is obviously different to those 2 games I've just mentioned. Firstly, because it's away from home, but secondly, obviously, because we're not facing the side that are towards the top end of the table. I know Chelsea are struggling at the moment, but it's still a squad worth over £1 billion that you would expect more from. We're facing a team that have struggled this season, and came up into the Premier League with all of this expectation on them that they'd do well and that they'd be nowhere near relegation and they'd be absolutely fine this season. I heard people talking before the beginning of the season, not necessarily Burnley fans, to be fair to them. I didn't hear many Burnley fans talking about their expectations for this season, but I heard a lot of general football fans that are, sort of not Burnley supporters looking from the outside in, who believed Burnley would finish comfortably, up the table this season. They'd be nowhere near relegation and they'd, maybe even could push for the top half finish. And I always felt like that was going to be difficult for Burnley, and that's not to be disrespectful to them. That's not because Everton were one of the teams that were in and around those relegation places last season, but it's just never as simple as a team, wins the championship comfortably, completely dominates that league, plays lovely football, and then comes up and is able to replicate that in the Premier League. We have seen cases of it where teams have been able to come up and in their first season back in the Premier League, they've done well, they've stabilised themselves, they've had a good run at it. Teams like Leeds did that as well. Obviously, we saw Forest last season do relatively well, but then it's always the second season where they fall, and Leeds obviously were relegated in their second season, I believe it was, or the third season, and Forest obviously are struggling massively at the moment as well. But yeah, as I said, I never ever felt like Burnley were going to come into the Premier League and just be absolutely unbelievable and wipe the floor with everybody, because it's so difficult to make that jump from the Championship to the Premier League, and the level and the quality is on another world. And just because a team can dominate in the Championship and do really well doesn't mean that they're going to be able to come to the Premier League, and that is going to work in this league either. So obviously they've struggled this season. Vincent Kompany, their manager, very different sort of direction as to what they were on under Everton manager Sean Dyche, of course, who was previously there. And yet they've had some difficult defeats so far this season. Just the 2 wins, 12 defeats, and they'll be looking at this game as one that they'll be hoping they can go out and pick up 3 points in, because it's against the side that are in and around them in Everton, which, as we all know, we shouldn't be in and around Burnley, but we are where we are. But also it's a home fixture as well for Everton. This is a huge game, because not only is it an opportunity to make it 4 in a row, not only is it an opportunity to keep up our brilliant away form, not only is it an opportunity to climb further and further up the table. I think if we win tomorrow, Nottingham Forest have had a difficult time over the last couple of weeks or so. Palace haven't had a particularly good time either, so we may be able to climb above both of those sides, or certainly level on points with Palace, and the goal difference would put us above them. And then, the more and more we climb up that table away from the relegation zone, the bigger that gap will become. And as I said before, we had the 10 points taken off us I think I sat here after the Palace game and said that for me, that was the moment I felt Everton were safe from relegation, because I felt that the gap, which was something like 8 points, I think, at that point, between where Everton were and where the relegation sides were, I just felt that that gap would never be closed. I felt that there wasn't a world in which those three teams would pick up 8 points where Everton didn't this season. And obviously, it very much felt at that point that Everton were in a secure position and had no real issue or no real worry about being relegated this season. We then obviously were hit with the points deduction, and that all changed. And I think the aim and the goal now is to get back to that position that we were prior to the points deduction. Not necessarily the same points, because we are only 1 point away from where we were before we had the deduction. But obviously, 14 points only puts us 5 points above Luton, which isn't particularly, a great amount. So we need to be back in that position where we can look back and there's a sufficient amount of points to be able to say, do you know what, I think we'll be absolutely all right now. And I do think Everton will get there. I've got no problem with that. But this represents itself as an absolutely huge, huge opportunity, not only for Everton to pick up another 3 points and make it 4 on the bounce, but also for Everton to beat one of the sides that are ultimately in and around us. The Newcastle game was one of my favourite experiences of Goodison Park in my lifetime, and certainly in recent years. The Chelsea game felt unbelievable because of how well we performed after, giving 110% just a few days earlier, and how we were able to get back to that level and still give 100%. And even though we were tired and fatigued, we were still able to dig deep and find the win. This game is arguably the most important out of all of them, because if we can turn up tomorrow at Turf Moor and beat this Burnley side, which I've got absolute confidence Everton will, by the way, because we're much better away from home than we are at home this season, or certainly we have been of late. Now, obviously, we've picked up 2 massive wins at home, so hopefully we can continue that away from home as well. But also because it not only puts that distance between us and Burnley, but it also sort of it creates, I think, a narrative that I think Burnley will look at and think, okay, Everton maybe are just too good. Maybe they are just, ultimately won't be in the battle come the end of the season, because they're much, much better than the teams. And then maybe Burnley will start to focus on the teams that are around us. And obviously it will give Everton a huge, huge boost of confidence to be able to go, not only are we now on 16 points, which would be 8 points above Burnley, which again, as I said, that gap is starting to grow and grow and grow. But also, we've beaten one of the sides there that are in and around the relegation battle, and we know we shouldn't be there, but we are there. And ultimately, when you're in and around those positions, you have to be able to beat the teams that are around you. I think really, really interestingly this season, as I said, 7 wins and 7 defeats. And obviously, without the points deduction, we'd be sitting in a really, really comfortable position now. But it is interesting to note that the teams that Everton have faced that are in and around that relegation zone, with the exception, obviously, of Forest and Palace, who are a little bit higher, Sheffield United, we only managed to take a point from that game on an afternoon that we should have picked up all three, in my opinion. And obviously Luton, we were beating at Goodison Park as well. So if we can go out and beat Burnley tomorrow, they'll be the first side in that relegation zone that Everton have managed to beat this season, which would obviously be a huge, huge step in the right direction for us. But no, I don't think this will be easy. I don't think this will be easy whatsoever. I actually think this will be more difficult than than the Newcastle game. And I think it will be more different than the Chelsea game as well, because it's a completely different circumstance. The Newcastle and Chelsea games were opportunities at Goodison Park for us to not only improve our home form, but, really turn up in our numbers, battle for the shirt as players, and for us fans to get behind the players and put 2 really, really strong performances in. I think I said after the Newcastle game, in that moment, in that situation, under the lights of Goodison Park, all the fans are up for it, the players are up for it, everyone's fighting, everyone's battling. I don't think there's many teams in this world that will beat Everton on that day. And I'll be brutally, brutally honest with you. I think Everton in that situation, and have always been over the years, very, very, very strong in that situation where, it's under the lights, everyone's buzzing, there's a bit of grit, there's a bit of, there's a bit on the line in the game, as there was in that Newcastle game. And I think Everton pulled through fantastically. This obviously is much, much different. It's away from home, as I've just said. Burnley will be looking at this as an opportunity to pick up a huge win, and then obviously move further and further up the table. But it's also presents itself as a huge opportunity for Everton to take one step further away from those relegation teams, and also to be able to look and go, do you know what, we are significantly better than those sides, and it's up to us to put the performance in to show that, because we can. If Everton can perform like they've did numerous times this season, and I'm not even talking about the home performances, obviously we've already played Burnley this season in the Carabao Cup, and it was a comfortable win at Goodison Park, and I don't expect it to be as comfortable tomorrow. But if Everton can go and put a similar performance into West Ham or a similar performance into Brentford, then I think we can win this game comfortably, and it would give us all a little bit more peace of mind as to the position and the situation that we're in. If we lose this game tomorrow, what is really, really, really important is we don't lose our heads. We don't completely forget the position that we're in and the reason we're in this position and the situation that we're in. It's very possible tomorrow that Everton could lose. We could have an off day, which is possible. We've had 3 unbelievable performances on the bounce. It's very possible that the 4th one just isn't quite there. And Burnley might have one of their best days of the season, because they might be up for a late game, home ground. They'll be fancying themselves because, as I said, it's a home game against the side that ultimately in and around them. Whether or not they should be is a different question. The answer is we shouldn't be, but yeah, this presents itself as a really, really difficult opportunity for Everton tomorrow, and hopefully we can pull through it, and, as I said, climb further and further up that Premier League table, and give us all that little bit of peace of mind that, you know what, we are absolutely fine this season. There's no way we will be in that relegation battle come the end of it. The manager has had his press conference ahead of the game. We'll do the predicted starting 11 in just a moment, but let's have a little look at some of Burnley's recent results. They obviously got a good draw last time out, last weekend, at Brighton, a 1-1 draw, which was really, really impressive from their point of view. It's not easy to go away from home to Brighton and get anything, so that was a good result. Before that, obviously, a loss to Wolves, 1-0. They did beat Sheffield United 5-0 at Turf Moor the last time they were there. So, the memories of Turf Moor from their fans of most recent will be a huge, huge win against the fellow relegation rival. So, again, they'll probably have some confidence from that. Losses to West Ham, losses to Arsenal, Palace. Obviously, we beat them in the Cup. Losses to Bournemouth, Brentford, Chelsea, all add up to what has been a pretty dire start to the season for Burnley. But nevertheless, you are only judged on your last performance, and okay, they've lost since their last performance at Turf Moor, but their last performance at Turf Moor was a very, very impressive one. They've got a young squad, a squad that is filled full of young, exciting players that might not be ready at this moment, but may be ready in coming years. They've obviously got a young manager in Vincent Kompany, whose CV speaks for itself in terms of his playing, his playing stats and winners' medals and all of that sort of stuff. But we know they signed James Trafford in the summer from Manchester City, big signing, goalkeeper, obviously done well with England's under-21s in the Euros, so he's come in. They've got the likes of Lyle Foster in there, Adam Ramsey used to play for Arsenal. And then they've got some more recognisable names, Jay Rodriguez, Josh Brownhill, players that have been there for a number of years. But largely a quite fresh squad, and a squad full of names that you might not necessarily know much about if you're not a Burnley fan, and if you're not sort of if you're not used to watching them every week. So there's definitely a potential banana skin tomorrow, and there's definitely an opportunity there for Burnley. But I would be absolutely over the moon. This tomorrow, if Everton can win this game tomorrow, it would be our most impressive win for me, because not only would it be a 4th win on the spin, but it would be the first time we'd taken on one of those teams in and around the bottom, sort of 3 or 4. I know we've beaten Forest and Palace, but they were very much, certainly Palace was very much in a period of time when we were higher in the table. But it would be an almost statement of we shouldn't be anywhere near this position in the table, and we're going to prove that we are much better than the teams that are in and around this area, because we should be much higher than where we are now. And it would be an absolutely fantastic win. As I said, Sean Dyche has had his pre-game press conference. Some interesting sort of parts to take from the pre-game press conference. He was asked about a number of injuries going into this game. He confirmed that both Seamus Coleman and Ashley Young will miss it through problems that they have suffered. He was asked about Michael Keane. He said Michael Keane has been back on the grass and he will be monitored over the next couple of days, but the hope is that he will be fit. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he said, is fit and there's no issues whatsoever, and Dele is obviously back on the grass. We've seen the pictures over the last couple of days, which is absolutely fantastic to see, of Dele back in training. But anyway, let's get into our predicted starting 11, brought to you by FanHub. As always, go down in the description below, go and check out FanHub, give it a download, completely free to download. If you use the code THE-UBP, you'll be able to get on straight away. It helps the channel out massively as well. There's loads of different things you can do on there: predictions, predict your 11s, predict your results. You can obviously follow us, the Mighty Blues, over there. You know, you do get, the more predictions you get right, the more points you get. The more points you get, the higher you go in the table. The higher you go in the table, the more you can earn, and you can earn things like enough points to buy pints of beer in your local boozer. You can earn enough points to buy clothing. You can earn a lot. So, sorry, my phone has decided to go off there. Hang on, bear with me 2 seconds. Let me just avoid that happening again. There you go. Simple fix. Simple fix. I hope you all like me screensaver, by the way. Anyway, let's get straight into it then. In goal, obviously, we're going with Jordan Pickford. Not a huge amount to do again against Chelsea. Couple of saves that you would expect them to make. Couple of good saves in there as well, but not a massive amount to do. Not his not his most lively game in an Everton shirt, that's for sure, but ultimately is our number one, and for me is one of the best keepers in the country, so he's in there. Left back, of course, Vitaly Mykolenko, somebody that we have praised a awful amount. Where is he? I can't find him. There he is. An awful amount over the last few weeks and months or so, because he's been absolutely faultless. He's been fantastic in recent times, and I think if his performances can keep up, then he's somebody that will nail down that left-back position for years and years and years to come if he keeps improving, if he keeps working hard. We've spoken about him a couple of times this week, about his commitment, about his willingness to work harder in training, about his willingness to take extra sessions in training, his willingness to cut holidays short in order to come back to Everton and perform. Yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic recently, and hopefully he can keep that up. Centre-back partnership then, obviously we are without Jared Branthwaite this weekend because he picked up his 5th yellow card, meaning he is suspended for this one. I am going to go with James Tarkowski and Michael Keane. I know some people will say, why not Ben Godfrey? Why not give Ben Godfrey a go? Ben Godfrey is more like Jared Branthwaite than Michael Keane is. He's faster than Michael Keane. He's better on that left-hand side of the pitch than what Michael Keane is. I understand all of that. For me, I don't swing either way, particularly with Michael Keane and Ben Godfrey. I think neither of them are good enough to start every week for Everton, and I think they both have different attributes that, you know, the other doesn't have, that ultimately Everton need. They just, neither of them have got enough of those attributes to make a good, solid, consistent starting centre-back. I'm just going off what I think the manager will go with, and if Michael Keane is fit, I think the manager will go with Michael Keane. Is that the right decision? Well, we'll wait and see come 5:30 tomorrow evening, won't we? But I just think if Michael Keane is fit, it will be Michael Keane that Sean Dyche picks, and obviously we'll wait and see whether or not that is the case. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Michael Keane, and then right back, obviously no Seamus Coleman, no Ashley Young, so we're gonna go with Nathan Patterson in there. Big opportunity for Nathan. Hopefully he takes it, because, you know, ultimately he deserves this opportunity. He's played well when he's come off the bench. He's got a couple of good performances under his belt. Obviously got an assist against Newcastle as well. So hopefully he can take this one with both hands. And he'll be looking at this as a big opportunity to impress and to put a performance in which the manager looks at and thinks, I can't take him out the team. Into the midfield then, we are going to go with... I don't know why it's like this. It shouldn't be like this, but I somehow can't figure out how it should be. It should be like that, shouldn't it? There you go. Sorry. Little bit of a brain freeze there. In the middle then, I'm going with James Garner and Amadou Onana. Obviously, Garner Gay also picked up a yellow card in that game against Chelsea, meaning he is suspended. Onana come off the bench and done quite well in that second half. Hopefully, his injury issues are beyond him now and he's back to full fitness and availability. We sort of need them to be because, as I said, we haven't got Garnagay in there, so we need Onana to be back in there. But I'm sure he'll be fit and available for this one. I'm sure he won't have any issue whatsoever. James Garner next to him, who's been absolutely exceptional this season, put in some really, really solid performances, and you know, ultimately is one of those standout players every single time he goes on the pitch. Wingers then. Left hand side, I'm going with Dwight McNeil. Right hand side, I'm going with, where is he? Jack Harrison. Again, I've spoke a couple of times over the last few weeks about that right hand side and about having concerns about that right hand side and about how I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure it works with Ashley Young and Jack Harrison. I just don't think there's enough chemistry there. I just don't think there's a partnership being built there. I just don't think it works particularly well having them two there. Hopefully, this is an opportunity not only for Nathan Patterson to show that he's got the quality to play week in, week out at right back, but also for him to show he can create that partnership with Jack Harrison and we can get much more out of that right hand side, because at the moment I feel like that right side is getting targeted a little bit by teams. I feel like teams are always persistent to go down their left in order to attack our right hand side, and obviously we wanna cut that out. So hopefully not only can there be impressive individual performances, but hopefully they can create a little bit of a partnership in there as well. And then obviously in the 10, I'm going with Abdoulaye Doucouré behind our centre forward Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think at this point, certainly Doucouré, I think he pretty much picks himself. He's been absolutely unbelievable this season. He's been absolutely unbelievable since Sean Dyche come into the football club, to be honest with you. And it would be silly to leave him out the team. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, again, some people say he hasn't been brilliant recently. I think he's done well. Obviously, he could do with getting in front of goal a little bit more and putting the ball in the back of the net, but I think his performances have been good. And yeah, ultimately, he's our starting striker, isn't he? So there you go. That is my predicted starting 11 for the game. As I said, if you haven't already, get over to FanHub, go and follow us. And yeah, check it out. It's an absolutely fantastic app. They help the channel out, so go and help them out. And yeah, big game this one tomorrow. Interesting one. It will be difficult, of course it will be. It'll be much more difficult than the one at Goodison Park a couple of months ago in the Carabao Cup, but it still presents itself as an opportunity for Everton to go out and not only make it 4 wins on the bounce, but get another brilliant win away from home and pull ourselves further and further away from that bottom three. So let's hope we can do that. If you have enjoyed it, please do leave a like. It only takes a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. That would mean a huge amount to me. We will be back with the instant match reaction and the player ratings tomorrow, so look out for those. But until then, big thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Up the toffees, and we'll see you after.